Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fat Muscle Project podcast. It's question of the week time. Lisa, this is a bro question, but it's not a bro question. Anytime we can talk about quote unquote getting a pump is a good thing, but I don't want our people to think like, oh boy, this is going to be so bro. This is actually a really great question. I'm glad you came up with this, and we're going to break this down a lot different than a lot of people think. So go ahead.
Here we go. Lately, I have been having a problem getting a pump in the gym. Sometimes it's outstanding, and other times it's very hard to get the muscle filled with blood. What are your tips to maximize this? And is it really that important for muscle gain?
Okay, so the pump, right? The pump is what you feel in the gym when you're training and the muscle fills up with blood. And first of all, it looks great. Okay, so like when you're training arms and you get a bicep pump, like every guy out there, I don't care who you are, it feels good to see your muscles swelled and filled with blood because you can, and especially as you grow and you go further in this for years, you're always looking for that, and you also use it to gauge your progress. But everyone loves that because you can literally see your body changing during the workout, right? Of course, muscle flow is going to decrease and go back down after you're done, but it feels good. The thing is, cellular swelling is a very important part of muscle growth for physique enhancement. It's not really going to help with strength or anything like that, but the higher your rep ranges are, generally anything above 8 to 10, you should be able to get a pretty decent pump. And when you get really high rep ranges in there, like 20 to 30, the pump is it's very increased, right? So anything lower than that, like if you're going to do bench presses in the 3 to 6 rep ranges, you're not really going to get a pump, right? You're going to hit failure from a strength perspective and you're going to cause a lot of muscle damage, but you're not going to get a pump. And for bodybuilders specifically and physique enhancement enthusiasts, there's a reasons why most bodybuilders look different than say powerlifters, right? Because um, powerlifters don't hit these high rep ranges. They don't get this part of muscle growth in their training. And that's why they look muscular and dense. But bodybuilders almost look, I mean, great bodybuilders, they almost look like a superhero, right? Like something off the
Like
comics. Like,
sculpted. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that comes from hitting numerous rep ranges, but also self swelling is a very important part of growth. Okay. I can't remember who the researcher was that I was talking to at a conference, but during their presentation, they talked about how someone took a piece of muscle and they put it in a petri dish and they put lactic acid on it, and it actually showed hypertrophy, which is muscle growth, right? So there's a lot of lactic acid tied to muscle growth, and self swelling is very important for that. So back to your question, this person's having a hard time getting a pump in the gym. What are our tips to maximize that? And is it important for muscle gain? It's definitely important. So we've already established that. What's keeping some people from getting a pump? Well, there's a lot of things. The first thing is if you train early in the morning, hydration is huge, right? How much water you have. And I'm not talking about waking up and slamming a gallon of water. First of all, you can't do that. But having enough water in your system over time, you will always get a better pump if you train later in the day versus first thing in the morning. So just know that going in. You can only get so hydrated in the morning. I don't care if you eat a bunch of carbs, if you drink a shake, I don't care what you're drinking during your training, you're not going to get the same muscle cell swelling as you will if you train at 5 o'clock. Some of the best cell swelling I've ever had was at 1 o'clock in the morning, right before I went to bed. It was the only time I could train, but I had a gallon of water in me. I had almost all my food in me, all my salt, and the pump was literally my warm up sets. I was getting a pump. Where if I went and woke up and trained first thing in the morning, everything feels like it's going to tear because the muscle is dehydrated. And it's also the easiest way to get injured is to train first thing in the morning if you're just not as hydrated. So just know that going in. Other things that get in the way of not getting a good pump, what have you been through that day mentally? Okay. So if you have a long day at work or you have a lot of stress, just stress in general going on, and your mind is on other things, something happened on social media, you're getting 10,000 texts for some reason, even if they aren't bad texts, you're distracted, your mind's on other things, you're not going to be able to get the same mind muscle connection and feel a pump the same way. So those things contribute to it as well. um
And what you mentioned earlier in the or in our previous podcast, I think is plays into this as well, and that is sodium playing a big role there as well, and just making sure that you have the right amount of sodium in you or have had some sodium with your hydration as well.
Yeah, it's something to where if people are struggling with a pump, I guess we can go ahead and get into some of the tips to help improve that real quick. I'm a real big believer in sodium before and during training to help with this. So whatever your meal is before you train, add sodium to it. Quarter teaspoon of sea salt, about 400 milligrams of sodium. Add that to it. Whatever you're drinking during your training, I like to drink. I've got it actually right here in front of me. If you're watching on YouTube, there's EAAs in this. And if I'm going to go train, say, I don't know, right now, I'm going to have EAAs in this. I'm going to throw another quarter teaspoon of sea salt in there. I'm going to drink that during my training because that's going to help with cell swelling and a pump and contractions. Other things that you can also do is drink carbs during your training. Like if your program dictates that, excuse me, for a lot of my advanced athletes, I have them doing EAAs and our powdered, we call it performance fuel, and it's dextrose and cyclic dextrins and maltodextrins. It's a blend, and you're literally pumping carbohydrates into the muscle as you train, along with water and salt. Carbs, water, and salt are huge for getting a pump. So it's just going to help that across the board. So those are things that definitely help. Carbohydrates, are they as important? Not as important as water and salt. Like those are the two things that help. You also have other products. I've got some sitting here on my desk. Creatine is important. So if you want to have that before you train or during your training, that's a cell volumizer. Sitting on my desk, I have L-citrulline. A lot of pre-workouts, like our pre-workout Hard to Kill and Bulletproof, it has L-citrulline in it. If you want to just take it as a standalone, you could. So like 6 to 8 grams of L-citrulline will help with cell swelling. So those are like little things that help. But man, it's the hydration, like how hydrated you are and making sure that you have enough salt leading up to your workout is just it's the number one thing. I have people getting ready for shows this week at North Americans, and they may be listening to this. Um, Getting a pump backstage. I do want to talk about that really quick, even though this is about working out. Getting a pump backstage. Almost no one ever gets a pump in the morning for their morning show compared to how they can get a pump in the evening. And a lot of people think it's because they went out and they had a burger and fries or they had like some other stuff. It's because all the things I just mentioned go into play in the morning. You're on low sleep. You're trying to get a pump and get food and water and all that stuff in you before a show in the morning, right? You're doing all, and you're mentally stressed out because you have to go step on stage. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're worried about what time you're going to be on stage. Are you pumping up too soon? Are you being rushed? Like all these things are going. No one gets the same pump in the morning that they do in the evening, but most
Mhm.
of it's because they've got more food and water in them by the time they get to the evening show. Workouts are the same. Your workouts, you're always going to get better cell swelling later in the day.
I really like the point that you make about just mentally being there as well. I have heard clients ask me or ask me in general. I've never had a pump. Like literally, they were saying, "I've never had a pump. What is that even?" When people refer to that, and there were many things playing into this. But first of all, like just simply trying to mentally focus on that particular muscle group. Many people just go about it in the sense of, "Oh, I need to move the weight from A to B." Instead of, oh, okay, which muscle is supposed to be working right now, especially if we're newer to training, perhaps. And then something, especially with the rep range that you refer to, you're not going to get a pump on 6 or 8 reps probably. And then sometimes also the tempo playing a big role. Like, are you going about your reps too quickly using momentum, or are you going about them too slowly? So I think those are other things to consider. But otherwise, I think you've painted a really good picture.
Yeah. Getting a pump can also play a role in helping people with mind muscle connection. So I like to tell people, say they're having a hard time, oh, feeling their back on workouts. So that's a pretty common one because the back is very hard, especially for beginners, because you can't really see it. You can only like try and feel it. And you use a lot of forearms and biceps and everything else when you're trying to work your back. So I always tell people find the exercise that you feel in your back the best. Usually it's some kind of like cable row. You can just sit there and you can row it and you can feel your back. And I want you to do 4 sets, high reps of lightweight, and you go until you hit that lactic acid failure on 4 sets, until you start to fill your back up with blood. Now you've got a pump in your back. Now go do the rest of your back workout. Whatever rep ranges you want to do, it doesn't matter. It's called pre exhaustion. But when you fill it up with blood, you then feel every exercise after that much better. Right.
Mhm.
And finally, if you're someone that you're like you said, Lisa, they're like, I've never had a pump. I don't know what that is. Next time you go train shoulders, here's what I want you to do: grab a light set of dumbbells that you can do for 20 to 30 reps. And I want you to do 4 sets, right? Do your warm ups and then start your workout with this. Do 4 sets of side laterals, and you don't stop until you hit muscle failure to where it burns so bad. You're like, oh my God, it feels like there's a blowtorch on my shoulder. Set those down. That's 1 set. Do 4 sets of that. After that, you're going to have a pump in your shoulders. Okay. Unless you're training first thing in the morning and you haven't had any water, it's just going to burn like hell, but your shoulders aren't going to be pumped. So that's how you can tell the difference.
So yeah, hopefully we answered that question of the week.
Yeah. Listen, every bro loves to have a pump in the gym. It feels good. I hope our listeners understand that it's actually important. I joke and say it's bro. It's actually very important to what we do. And it's enjoyable. Like, everyone enjoys having a good pump. Now, if we can ever figure out how to just walk around with a pump nonstop all the time, I wish there was a supplement that we could just take that just worked that way. But no, this has been fun. Of course, if you ever have questions, these questions of the week are great. Just email myself or Lisa. Everything's in the show notes or the description on YouTube. This has been fun. We'll see you guys on the next one.